The NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series powered by iRacing.com has officially begun. It's all in control of Brad Davies in that 11 machine. Green flag flies. He's damn near banged up though. Now the 93 is going to push the 4 of Brian Day all the way up the wall. 4 wide down the super stretch point in the turn. And now the 93 39, the 3 machine goes around. Big trouble in the back. It's going to be the race for the win up front.
Look behind him. They're 3 and 4 wide, trying to make a push to the front as the field gains speed in turn number 1. Kenny Humphrey, if he can rip it back to the start finish line, will win here at Daytona.
7 laps to go.
Oh,
As you love it.
Here we go.
You love it. The 0-1 gets around. The 5 gets around. Big jump.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Donington Park and welcome to the Club UK and Ireland Week 13 Championship here on RaceSpotTV. Looking high above iRacing's newest racetrack here on the iRacing.com surface, and we're running on the shorter version of Donington Park here today. Will Benson along with Jake Cameron. Jake, we're running probably one of the favourite cars of all of the Club UK and I fraternity. That is, of course, the Radicals. And here today, we're going to have some very close and tight racing.
Yeah, definitely some very close, tight racing from the guys from the UK and I Club. They always produce some good racing in their little leads, especially on the Sundays when they have the their Radical Racing Truck Series. That always produces some brilliant close racing, so that's what we got to expect tonight, and nothing better than UK and I drivers to show us.
Qualifying is taking place at the moment. You can see live qualifying signings on this side of your screen. You see there, Wild is currently leading with a qualifying time of 1 minute 21.923. Very close in that battle for the grid out front in row number 1. Then about a half-second gap when we go down into row 2, which is currently occupied by Jamie Rushworth and Luke Ridgeway, Jake.
Yeah, some really good guys at the top there already. Jamie Rushworth, very quick. He races the BSR Touring Car Championship, I think it is. He's very quick in that, unbeaten in that as well. So very good for him and very good to see him up the top. But I think he's going to have a lot of competition tonight.
So then, let's go and get you a little bit of the action that is taking place on the racetrack right now. We're going to check in with... I need to get the right button here. Richard Goodwin, he's currently classified 22nd towards the rear of the field, trying to get himself a qualifying lap in. So far, 18 drivers have set themselves qualifying time. Field spread is about 5 seconds from fastest to slowest. See one of the cars there, the number 80 machine off of the racetrack. Not what you want to be having in qualifying, because of course that will invalidate your lap time, Jake.
Yeah, it will invalidate your lap time if you run a tiny bit wide, and Donington's not really like Road America where all the red curbs decide to turn into off tracks and you'll lose a lap time for it. So Donington's got a few little give and take areas, especially through the chicanes, so it'll be very interesting to see if any driver will be running off track today.
So then, 2 minutes 35 seconds left of qualifying, and as I said, Richard Wild is currently on provisional pole position. You've then got this guy right here, Tom Stanley. He is currently running himself in the 2nd position on the racetrack, and Stanley on a lap right now, trying to get himself 2/10 of a second advantage, but with lap time so short and the power to weight ratio of these cars, getting 2/10 of a second could be a little bit difficult for him, Jake.
Yeah, 2/10 of a second in a Radical is very harder really to get anywhere on this small, tight, twisty track. So he's going to have to make the most of every second and every corner he can and push 110%, because 100% will not be enough to get up in that top 5 today.
So Stanley working himself right now through the S's, and this is not where you want to get traffic at all, especially if they're going to be much slower. And we saw this number 80 car going to go side by side. In fact, that's the number 28 machine actually working side by side. You get such an aero push through there that number 961 car of Stanley really has lost out a little bit there, and he's only going to have one more lap to get the job done.
Yep, only one more lap, so it'll be interesting to see what he can get done. I can't actually see yet, Will. I'm not managed to be in the session yet, so talk him through this lap.
So he's working himself now on the back end of the racetrack. Not much more for him to go, and of course, Donington Park is the latest brand new track here on the iRacing.com service, along with of course, the revamped Phoenix International Raceway on the oval side of things. A little bit later on, by the way, we will head ourselves over to Charlotte Motor Speedway. We're going to go running there in the NASCAR trucks for 60 laps. So, about as British as you can get right now, Jake. A little bit later on, we're going to go about as American as you get. The home track for NASCAR. We're going to get trucks running there. I think only way we can get more American than that is if we all started singing the anthem and drinking Budweiser.
Yeah, I suppose if we all started drinking Budweiser and going to McDonald's and KFC and then going to a nice NASCAR race at Charlotte, this is the most American you can ever get. So it'll be interesting to see that one. I won't be there for that, so I'll have to watch it back later, but I'm sure it'll be a very anticipated race by most of the UKNI guys.
Oh, a little bit of contact. That's really going to hurt Stanley. His day is done. To give you an update on guys on the move right now, we have got a couple of other people circulating on the racetrack. This is one of them. Looking on board now with Jamie Rushworth, currently sat third place. He has got himself this one more lap to get the job done as he is working himself down Starkey Straight once again, working himself down towards the S's and looking as though he is going to try and see whether he can move himself up. He's currently 4/10 of a second behind pole position, which is Richard Wild, and Wild is off the track. Will this lap improve? A 1 minute 21.8. That is not going to get him the lap he needed. Driving and scoring didn't work there. He will actually classify himself in the third place overall there, Jake.
Yeah, very good lap there by him, but not being able to improve. That was them off tracks we were talking about. You run a little wide off the curb and it's going to invalidate your lap time. So a lot of drivers probably falling foul to that in this qualifying session. Obviously the first race they're going to be doing at Donington, probably the first laps they're ever going to be turning in this car around this track. So they've got a lot to look forward to as we see how they'll prepare themselves for the race.
And now we're having a look at the number 71 car coming past the start-finish line. That is Nick McCarran. He is not going to get it done in that JPS car. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, smoking is bad. Please don't hang out and smoke just because you looked at Nick McCarran's car. But he'll be starting this race from the 13th position by the looks of it. A couple more people still running on the racetrack. We have got that number 15 car of Clark Williams just completing a lap. He will be classified in the 9th position. We've got Jamie Rushworth still on track as well, looking to improve on his third place overall. I don't think he's actually going to get the job done. No, qualifying has ended. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is actually going to be it. So, we run through your starting grid? Yes, we will, because Jake's not paying any attention to me. Here's your starting grid then, from the first of two races here in the Club UK and Ireland Week 13 Championship. There you see that is a completely wrong grid. That is the grid that you want. Richard Wild starting on pole position in the number 70 car. Tom Stanley lining up alongside him in row number 1. Jamie Rushworth in 3rd position. Daniel Hunt in the 4th position. Then Richard Goodwin and Simon Field in row number 3. David Baker, Luke Ridgway in row number 4. Row 5, Clark Williams and the guy known as Stalker, unknown. Thank you for messing up our overlay. Then Steve Barker and Dan Lee in row number 6. David Grunill and Nick McCarran on row number 7. Jonas Van Werk and Chris Taylor Jr. in row number 8. Row 9, Matthew Dalton, Whit Smith, and then Steve Richardson, Laura Bond round out your top 20. Here is the rest of the grid. 23 cars gonna go racing here today at Donington Park.
What a race it is going to be, Will. Now I can actually see the track and see the drivers. It's a very interesting field to see some of the guys like Matthew Dalton at the back, Steve Richardson at the back as well. Laura Bond, our female lady racer in this one, so she's going to be wanting to make a stand for the girl power. But yeah, there's some really interesting people that I wouldn't expect to see near the top.
And there we are from the iRacing.com blimp, looking at your first couple of rows then, high above here from Donington Park. Last couple of cars assembled on the grid, ladies and gentlemen. Here we are, set to go racing at Donington Park. Lights are on top of the gantry, and this race will start right now. Really good start there by the number 70 car, and the number 961 will be working alongside him as they come down into that first corner for the first time. It looks as though, though, that number 11 machine, sorry, the number 71 car is going to get a really good jump, but it is going to be the number 70 car leading out front down into that first corner. That is Richard Wild, then Stanley, then Rushworth, but Rushworth putting a lot of pressure on right now on the outside of that number 11 car, sorry, of Jamie Rushworth, and they're going to stay too wide through this section of the racetrack. Very close racing in the battle for P1, 2, 3 and 4, Jake.
Very close racing here as Rushworth holds the line into turn number 3. He's still up the inside. He'll be on the outside into the next turn. It looks like Stanley's going to be able to hold that position for the moment. Rushworth's just going to tuck in from behind, but they're now coming under pressure from Richard Goodwin and also Simon Field. He seems to be making progress through the field, but Daniel Hunt seems to be losing out at the moment, so he needs to start going forward and not backwards, because if not, he's going to get steam trained by that line of cars on the outside. But he's managed to hold the inside line and get back into line now.
Good battles in the mid-pack right now. You see a little bit of too wide racing. Daniel Lee and Eunice Van Workit are battling for position right now on the racetrack. Incredibly close racing as we're going to ride on board with Jamie Rushworth there in that. That's completely not right, but we've got side-by-side racing here coming down.
Oh, we have a spinner. That's Richard Goodwin.
Oh, that's a big
Richard
crash.
Goodwin and Simon Field coming together there on the exit on that side. Last turn, I think there. I think that's turn number 11. Very unfortunate for them coming together, and once one comes together, you know, that's where two cars go around, and we see our first pit stop as well.
So then let's get a look at this, looking from Richard Goodwin as they were working themselves down into the S's. You can see just how close this was on the racetrack between these drivers, but here is Goodwin coming down into that S section of the racetrack, just clips that curb on the right hand side. That spins the car around. Then the Mulber car behind him as well, getting it all centered wrong. And that was, I believe, Steve Baker as well. Then at the rear of the field had an issue as all of the cars were swarming to avoid themselves on the racetrack. Crazy start at the conclusion of lap number 1. Barker brings his car onto pit road, Jake.
Yeah, Steve Barker bringing his car onto pit road. I didn't actually see him get caught up in that one, so whether he just tagged a car at the end there or missed the braking point and run into the front of it someone, but I can see no damage on that number 17 car, so that'll be something we'll have to confirm later on in this one. But he's going to be our first pit stopper, and he's going to be running out right at the back of the field, and he's now going to have about a 40-second gap between him and the leaders, so he's got a lot of work to do if he wants to get up into that top 10.
Richard Wild right now has a 1.2 second. Oh, we've got another spin. The number 1 car there, just spinning it around at the rear of the field. That is David Baker. There we see him. He was running himself about mid-pack, but a second spin in as many laps, Jake. We'll get another replay of this from on board and show you exactly what happened. But coming down, you see just caught that big red sausage curb, and David Baker, after a good start to this race, now again at the rear of the field. That inside curb on the exit of the final corner has been catching drivers out quite a bit, Jake.
Yeah, catching drivers out quite a bit. They've not been able to do what they want around there when they've been in a close pack.
Oh,
so
we've
they're
got
going to
another
have to
car off as well. And that is Matthew, no, it's Jonas Van Werk actually. You see him there in the number 516 car, getting himself all forms of sideways. Going to get yourselves a replay of that one as well to see what happened, but he's going to fall down the field in that 516 car. Wouldn't be surprised he's got a bit of damage. Let's have a look. 516 car potentially got helped out a little bit, ran all the way up the hill, but just about missed the tyre barrier, Jake.
Yeah, just while you were going on about that, Will, and had the replay on the screen, Tom Stanley has been passed by Jamie Rushworth, but Stanley up the inside again now. He's going to gain that position back from Rushworth as they come through the final turns, come through that final chicane, back onto the home straight, so Stanley regains his second position. But coming back to that incident, Will, yeah, it was very unfortunate for him. He just took a spin, ran a little too wide, and I don't know if he's got any damage on that car. I think he's going to be good to keep going as he just makes a pass up the inside there.
So Stanley moving himself up into the second position as behind him we saw Rushworth getting very sideways there down into turn 1. There is that guy currently running in at the third position. Got himself a little bit of a cushion so he can try and come back on the attack. It's about a 1 second gap between him and Clark Williams, currently running himself in the 4th position on the racetrack. Good racing in the early going though. What is this all meaning though is that Stanley is absolutely driving away into the field as we see another car off the racetrack. That was the number 15 car of Clark Williams. Seems to be, of course, this track people has only had about a day or so to test in it. Really challenging some drivers already now, Jake.
Yeah, really challenging drivers already, but some of the guys out front, like Rushworth, Stanley and Wild, they're not really seem to have any troubles at the moment. Seem to be running a very nice line, keeping it very steady. But as we say that, Wild is actually starting to lose his gap now to Stanley. As I look back and see Jamie Rushworth,
yeah, he's off the track.
He's actually lost out to the 3rd position to Clark Williams. He's ran very wide up in that uphill section.
Yeah, and we saw that when we were working ourselves on board with Williams. It's interesting to note that he's actually up 5 positions since the start of this event. Of course, make that now 6 positions as Jamie Rushworth has lost a position. But you can see from Rushworth, he's looking very close. He's going to try and make a pass down on the outside, down into turn 1 in that number 11 machine. They're going to be side by side, and the answer is going to be they will remain side by side through the corner. But that number 15 car of Williams looking as though he's going to get the job done. It's going to be a right hand the next time, but will Rushworth try it on the outside? They remain side by side for the time being, and now it does look as though that because the next corner is a left-hander, you see Rushworth really able to get advantage, but again, right-hander for the next corner. These guys have been side by side for half a lap. The number 11 car there of Rushworth just getting a little bit loose off the exit of the corner, but he has been able to make that position back up. He is now running again in that 3rd position on the racetrack, Jake.
Yeah, running back in the 3rd position, but while this battle's been going on, Luke Ridgway has been able to catch up, and now Clark Williams is going to be all over the back of them as we actually see David Grinnell actually run wide there on the exit of the bend. But this is going to be a big battle now for that P3 position, and everyone's been crunching up. And out in front, though, Tom Stanley and Richard Wild have been able to run away with it. So that's going to be very interesting to see if they can hold out there until the end of this one.
And we looked on board there with Ridgway in the Mr. Blobby car, and there's still 2 wide racing behind them. We'll stay with this. You see Grunhill able to get himself past Clark Williams, but Ridgway moving himself up 1 position into what will now be classified as 4th place on the racetrack. Good driving going on, but now behind them, the number 15 car of Clark Williams and Stalker, they are looking side by side, coming down into this corner, and Clark Williams is going to keep the advantage. A lot of toing and froing here, and of course you get some good draft on these long straightaways. Great battles going up out front. So have a look just behind. We have got very close racing as well between Dan Lane, Nick McCarron, and also Matthew Dalton. Of course, many people know Matthew Dalton for the work he's doing for the Club UK&I World Cup side of things. But these guys are running incredibly close on the racetrack now as we ride on board, Jake, with Matthew Dalton.
Yeah, incredibly close there, as that's the battle really there for the top 10. So he's going to be pushing very hard to get into that top 10 positions. But they seem to be being left a little now by the guys further up. So they don't seem to be that quick, as we see a spinner there actually in front. That's not Chris Taylor.
No, but we've got the 71 car as well of McCarron also spinning it at the same time. So 2 spins in the space of literally about 2 seconds on the racetrack. And we start off by having a look at what happened to Nick McCarron, because there was another spin about the same point. We'll get this one on board with McCarron. We'll likely see both the spins at once this way. He just looped it into the corner. A little bit of snap oversteer in that JPS car. Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget, smoking is bad. Do not smoke.
Well, that's your opinion.
Well, it's a legal opinion. If we're going to show tobacco advertising, we are going to have to tell people not to smoke. But still, we have got ourselves our race leader. We haven't talked about him yet, but Richard Wild, he has absolutely been dominating this race in that number 70 car. We see it up there on your screen. Now the 2.1 second advantage in this race. Just absolutely driving away with things right now, Jake. His last lap time, a 1 minute 22.637. Still, even though that was one of his slower laps, about half a temp faster than Tom Stanley behind him.
Yeah, Tom seems to really be struggling now since he's got away from Jamie, but Jamie seems to be picking up the pace, so he's going to have to put the foot down Tom if he wants to get away from the trailing car of Jamie Rushworth. But Ridgeway also there, still dropping back as we see a car off there into the grass. That's David Grinnell. He's going to be off into the gravel. That's going to allow Clark Williams by again and up the inside. So we're going to have another battle going on for P5 once he manages to rejoin. And that will be coming down into the last section, and that will be into the chicane.
Yeah, let's get the replay there of David Grunhill as he just gets himself, you see, turns into the corner, car gets loose, tries to correct it, runs himself wide, and from then on, it was a downhill battle. You see cars going to pass him. There is the number 15 car going past. That is Clark Williams. Grunhill being a very good job, though, making sure that it was safe to come back on the racetrack before he came on, Jake.
Yeah, very good by him. If not, that could have been a big one between him and Clark Williams if they wouldn't have had the racecraft to keep out of each other's way, but very good driving from him. But I'm still confused about who this stalker is.
026 car just looped it around on the racetrack. Just saw it there. Let's get ourselves a replay of that. And that was Simon Field. This was actually down into turn number 1. First car I've actually seen going off there in turn number 1. In the Marlboro car, bring himself down to the corner. Car just gets snapped loose. And that's one of the things we have seen all race long, Jake. Guys getting loose, trying to correct it. And that is what's sending them off into the gravel. Things where these guys are really finding it difficult to adjust to the fact that they're getting snap oversteer on their cars.
Yeah, just as you say that, Simon Field actually does that again on the exit of turn number 4. So he's obviously got a bit of damage with that car as he gets very loose again. So definitely struggling from some understeer issues there. Maybe a bit of oversteer as well thrown in there. But some brilliant racing going on throughout this whole field. Richard Goodwin now running out on his own in P12. He's had a reasonable start. He took that early spin in the race on lap number 1 in the last section. So very unfortunate for him there, but he's definitely coming back through the field again.
Yeah, we're going to have a look on board now with Chris Taylor about to try and set up a pass there on the number 12 car, the Omnibus Stalker. You see down to the inside, he is going to go, and it looks as though that these guys are going to have some great two-wide racing once again. No, actually, Taylor's going to get that job done. Shorter gear ratios for him really helped him out there, being able to blip that throttle, get that pass done into turn number 2.
Yeah, great pass by him. I think Stalkers just gave him a little bit of room, and that's just allowed him to go by. So some great spatial awareness there from Stalker. And this is now going to allow Taylor to push on for that 6th place driver of David Grinnell, also fighting with Clark Williams. So that's going to be an interesting battle for the top 5 positions if he can catch up. So he's got the pace to do it. He's shown the pace there on that overtake, but whether he can make that consistent with that rear damage as well. He's got a little bit of right rear damage where someone's either run into the back of him or he's turned it around and hit the fence. So we'll have to see and monitor that car throughout the rest of this one.
Going to check in with our one and only female driver in this field. That is Laura Baum. Currently working ourselves down in the 19th position on the racetrack, Jake, as they work themselves underneath Starkey's Bridge into turn number 6 on the racetrack. And does seem to be that Laura Braun is struggling a little bit here today. He's going to ride on board with her as they work themselves through McLean's. But running in that 19th position, as I say, one position from where she started, however. I'm putting a lot of pressure on Bagni Salmonies right now in that battle for the 18th position on the racetrack.
Yeah, putting a bit of pressure down, but I don't really think she's going to get anywhere running wide like that. But I'm sure the car in front of her as well, Bradley Selms, has got a bit of damage.
Who has got the best paint scheme in his race by far, by the way.
Yeah, just a bit. It is a very nice looking car, but Laura's definitely not going to be able to get anything done into that chicane, and she has got the upper hand advantage as well, not having any damage. So she should really be making this pass look very easy.
And riding on board with Bradley Selms there as they work themselves back down into turn 1. There is a view from the rear as they come down into that first corner. You see much better on the brakes into that first corner, but he goes wide. That is going to allow Laura Bond to look down to his inside as they come through turn number 2. Easiest pass in the book. Run wide in turn number 1. Pretty much you lose momentum through that high-speed section of the racetrack. The crane occurs, turn number 2 and 3. Oh no, Laura Bond spinning just ahead of him. Will he keep it off her? A little bit of contact there, Jake, just a little bit. But Laura Bond gets up the position, then undoes all of that hard work.
Yep, typical woman, gets it up and does nothing for it. So, yeah, very unfortunate for Laura there.
And they continue. We'll get a replay of this up on your screen down into turn number 4. Just catching a white line there. Little bit of contact. We will actually be able to see there from Selms on this camera angle. A little bit of front damage Hopefully not too substantial, but they continue on the racetrack for the time being. Let's check in with your battle for the race lead, because Rushworth has actually gone to the race lead by the looks of it.
Richard Wild's taken a spin.
Yeah, Wild has taken a spin. We was just outside of our screens while we were talking about other things, but Wild has taken a spin, and he is now falling down into 4th position on the racetrack. So Stanley led at the conclusion of that lap, but now it's Rushworth leading by about 5.9 seconds on the racetrack, and this is going to be fascinating now to see whether Richard Wild can actually try and come back through the field. We're going to look on board with him in that number 70 car, as we get the Mr. Blobby machine of Luke Ridgway ahead of him, coming down into the, whereabouts are we coming down into now? The final corner on the racetrack. Easiest pass. Oh, they're going to stay side by side, and Ridgway having to use that curve. Thankfully, he didn't spin that car like we've seen so many other doing during the course of this race, Jake.
No, very good save by him, bit of opposite lock and a bit of power. Nothing ever hurts when you do that, and he drifted it on out of there. Richard actually did make a bit of contact with him, and he's now going to lose out another position there to David Grenhill, and he nearly makes contact into turn number 1, and Grenhill's go wide. He's out into the grass, he's round, so that's going to be the end of his one. Very unfortunate there, but that's going to be seeing him outside the top 10 as the pack all just comes flying by him. But that's also allowed Clark Williams through now. Clark Williams will move up into the 4th position, so Ridgway's struggling now. Yeah, and we're getting the replay up on your screen there to see what happened once again. We see a massive wreck, actually, Will. That's Tom Stanley and Jamie Rushworth, actually, or Richard Wild. Well, let's go and have a look at that. We'll get the back end of this, of Stanley bringing his car back out onto the racetrack. There he is. Let's see exactly what happened to him, because you see, very slow now on the racetrack. But it is all action right now. And here is, let's have a look to see where this is, because at this point, oh no, Stanley just loses it all by himself, catches, spins that car on the racetrack, tries to gas it. He's in the center of the racetrack, reverses it, but you see cars around them. They're just having to literally go on the grass as he was doing that, and that is Stanley in the 961 car. He led a lap of this race. Now he's fallen well down the field into what I believe is going to be 9th position on the racetrack. Could actually be further down than that, I think. Well, I think he's further back than... No, it's 9th. Trust me, I'm right. I've got timing and scoring, and my timing I have forgot you have got live timing and scoring, so yeah, that's correct. He has fallen all the way back down there, so I'm very unfortunate for him. And Richard Wild also goes back to P10 as well.
Yeah, so let's have a look then through your top 10 as it stands right now. Jamie Rushworth has a 12.6 second advantage right now over Luke Ridgway. There is Rushworth on your screen. Inherited the lead about 3 laps ago, and since then has not looked back. Luke Ridgway, there you see him on your screen, but he's got a very close battle behind him with the number 15 car. There's only about 0.3 of a second separating these guys right now. The Mr. Blobby car of Luke Ridgway over Clark Williams. They are your top 3 on the racetrack as they continue to circulate coming up the hill. Williams has about a 1 second advantage over Chris Taylor right now in that battle for 3rd position on the racetrack, but we're seeing that potentially now a pass being set up down to the inside will go that number 15 of Clark Williams, and he's going to get the job done down into the final corner. The answer is going to be that was a pretty easy textbook pass, Jake.
Yeah, very easy pass, but will he be able to hold it though? Because now Ridgway will have the draft down the home straight away, and so will Chris Taylor have the draft as well. So we could see a 3-way battle here for 2nd place into turn number 1 as Williams now moves to the outside. Ridgway may look up to the inside into turn number 1. Will he decide to outbrake him? No, he's not. He's going to decide to sit in line. So that's them through turn number 1 very well and safely. Will they be able to get a good exit though? Ridgway gets a lot better drive on the exit though. He's not going to be able to get it done into the downhill. Turn number 3. He looks to the grass actually. Very interesting move to him. Looking to the actual grass to try and make a pass.
And these 3 drivers right now separated by just 1 second on the racetrack. There you see them on your screen. The number 15 car, Clark Williams. The number 80 car of Luke Ridgway. But here comes the number 39 car of Chris Taylor. He's going to get that job done there. Nice simple pass. It looked as though that Ridgway got himself a little bit loose. Couldn't get onto the gas the way he wanted to. And that was just the opportunity that Chris Taylor needed to pounce. Ridgway has lost 2 positions and as many laps now, Jake.
Yeah, unfortunate for Ridgway there.
Oh, going to interrupt you. We have got Grunhill in the wall. So we're going to get ourselves a replay of this. But David Grunhill, he's been on the walls here today. He is now in the wall. Let's see what happened to him. He already had a little bit of rear damage. This is coming down into, I believe, turn number 5. Just getting himself a little bit loose, catching the grass, and then he had nowhere to go. You see the car just spun it around and him into the wall. Game over for him. Gonna be, Grunwald actually had a pretty good race until that point, so he's not going to be happy with that one at all, Jake.
No, not going to be very happy. He's taken a couple of spins, actually, Will, in this one. So, very unfortunate for him. And he's going to retire with just 10 minutes left on the play clock in this one. So, drivers going to have to start making their moves now if they want to get into that podium position, maybe even a top 5. But Stalker looking very strong all over the back of Luke Ridgway at the moment. He seems to have dropped off a little bit at the moment, but I think he's just preparing that car ready to pounce on the final laps.
But yes, less than 10 minutes to go in this event right now to run through your complete top 10. It is Jamie Rushworth from Clark Williams, from Luke Ridgway, Chris Taylor Jr. Oh no, Stalker's actually just, as I say that, been able to get past in the last couple of moments. So, Stalker up into third, Chris Taylor Jr., Matthew Dalton, Richard Goodwin, Simon Field, Tom Stanley, Richard Wilde. They are your top 10 as it stands on the racetrack right now, with 9.5 minutes left in this event. Just to let you know, by the way, we've got ourselves a total of 16 cars scored on the lead lap. One driver scored 1 lap down, that's Laura Braun, and one driver scored 2 laps down, that is David Stowe. Going to check in on Simon Field in that Mulber car, trying to make a move right now this is Tom Stanley by the look of it. Indeed it is. Getting himself a good exit on the corner. This could potentially give him the opportunity to look down to the inside. That is exactly what he's going to do. Side by side, they will go through the corner, and Simon Field is going to get the job done there. Yes, you see tobacco advertising. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, do not smoke, because here comes the number 961 car back on the attack, getting a much better run there out of the final corner, and that means that it's going to be a drag race once again as they come back down into turn number 1. Simon Field has to check up back into line, Jake.
Yeah, they're going to have to slow down a bit as well, as we see back marking car of David Grinnell actually there coming out of the pits from his earlier on incident. He's going to come back out onto track and rejoin the raceway. But back to this battle here for the top 10 positions. Tom Stanley, Simon Field. Stanley seems to have pulled a big gap now as they come into the downhill section of the track, into this tight right-hander, turn number 5. And they'll come up to this long straight into the uphill, into the left-hander. As they do that, Simon Field looks actually to the inside. Will he be able to get that move done? No, he won't. He's going to tuck back in again. But they still got this right-hander up here. Will he be able to pop in? No, but it's not going to be so far. So he's going to have to sit in and wait until the next lap.
Yeah, these drivers right now separated by just 0.3 of a second on the racetrack. And there you see a train of cars behind him as well. They are battling outside of the top 10, trying to get themselves into the top 10 right now. You have got Jonas van Vurk and then Richard Wilde and David Baker. Wilde has lost another position in this race. There are those 4 cars, as I say right now, separated by just about 2 seconds overall. Gap between Jonas van Vurk and David Baker is just 0.7 of a second on the racetrack. Wilde is there in that mix as well. Now you see the gap between Wilde and Dan Lee, just 1.4 seconds on the racetrack. There's now just 7 minutes to go in this event. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, a little bit later on we bring you a little bit of truck racing from Charlotte Motor Speedway. So from about as British as you can get to about as American as you can get, we go to Charlotte Motor Speedway, go racing in some trucks and have ourselves some Budweisers. That'll be here live on RaceSpotTV, and the start time for that will be about 8:30. 9, not GMT, British summertime, because we are British overall. Right now, that number 39 car of Chris Taylor has still got Richard Goodwin behind him. Goodwin really putting the pressure on now in the latter stages of this event. We see a car off the racetrack as well, though. That is a number 32 machine of Laura Bond, who has already scored a lap down, so she's just trying to get out of the way for oncoming traffic. But here we're looking now on board with Richard Goodwin in that pitlanes.com car. Last lap time by him was a 1:22.589. Pretty much identical to the car ahead of him with Chris Taylor.
Yeah, pretty much identical lap times these guys have been running throughout this whole race. Chris Taylor's quickest lap time being a 1:22.431 as they cross the line that time by. Taylor's run a 1:23.4, whereas Richard Goodwin has actually just been able to do a 1:23.0, so a lot quicker at this stage of the race. Someone's obviously been saving their tyres a little better, as he's going to look to the inside now as into the downhill section. He's not going to be able to make it work there. We didn't see a a really silly pass, shall we say, onto the grass like we did earlier from David Granell. But it'll be very interesting. He's got the run. He looks to the outside. He looks to the inside. He's tucked back in, though. It's going to be very interesting to see where this race progresses as we come into the uphill right-hander.
Yep, so they'll work themselves now out the old hairpin down into Starkey's Bridge, riding on board. And there you see the pass, actually. Goodwin was looking down to the inside, wasn't able to get the job done. But these two drivers now just separated by about 3/10 of a second on the racetrack. Will Goodwin try and make the pass here? No, he won't. But still, Taylor really having to defend. And what this has done as well is it's allowed Matthew Dalton to get into the mix as well. So 3-car battle now in for the last of the top 5 positions. And here comes Goodwin down to the inside. Will he make this one stick as they come down into the chicane? The answer is going to be nice, easy pass there by Richard Goodwin, but he gets himself a little bit loose on the exit of the corner. We saw this earlier on. This will now allow Taylor to potentially come back. Doesn't look as though he's got the speed momentum. Potentially, Matthew Dalton could almost make this 3 wide. There is Matthew Dalton. Potentially is going to try and make it 3 wide, Jake.
3 wide down into turn number 1. Can't do it any better than that. Great British style racing as they all seem to file out now as Dalton makes it up the inside of Taylor. But look who still leads out in front of this pack. Richard Goodwin, somehow after overshooting the final bend, he's still going to be able to lead the guys down into this downhill section and then out of the old chicane into the into Starkey's Bridge area. So it's going to be a very interesting race.
Yeah, 4 minutes to go in this event, so probably we'll say about 3 laps right now to settle out some of the scores. Meanwhile, Jamie Rushworth has now got himself a 17.9 second advantage in this event. There he is, and there you see the gap behind him, now up to 18 seconds over Clark Williams as he's completing the lap now. It's 1 minute 22 laps. I tell you what, it's going to get 3 more laps in from here.
It could be 3 more laps. It could be 2 more laps.
3 more laps, trust me.
Definite 100% then.
Yeah,
all right.
I bet you a fiver.
Well, we can go tenner if you want, Will, and a pint.
Let's go tenner and a pint.
Tenner and a pint. Let's do it. I'm going to say 2 more laps because knowing Jamie, he's slowed down before just to get in and finish the race before that time. So whether he decides to do that with the 17-second lead he has is something we'll see in a couple of laps' time. But looking back to this battle for the top 5 again, it's a real good race going on between Dalton, Goodwin, and Taylor. Goodwin's still into that 5th position though. Dalton's going to be looking all over the back into turn number 1. Not going to be close enough though. Taylor seems to be dropping off, so Goodwin has to have saved them tyres even after that early spin.
Yeah, and there you see the gap back from Taylor to Simon Field, who's running it in the 8th. Dalton's Chris Taylor, we know how much that one is. And then it's about the same there from Richard Goodwin to Matthew Dalton. They're battling to get into the top 5, of course. Only one of these drivers can unless something happens, and we see a car off the racetrack there. But that's not going to be involved in this top 5 shootout battle, so don't need to worry about that. Still got ourselves 14 cars scored on the lead lap with 2 minutes and 30 to go. Looks like that some of these guys have tried to use a little bit too much of their tyres too early. Potentially, I think that if they just waited 1 or 2 more laps, this could have been a very different thing. Pushing too hard makes your tyres wear out a little bit, and for some of these guys, they've paid the ultimate sacrifice for that now.
Yeah, they have really started to pay the ultimate sacrifice, Will, as you say. And looking at the lap times of our race leader, though, he's just posted a 1:22.394. That's a lot quicker than what the rest of the guys in this race are actually running. Looking at some of the other guys, Luke Ridgway, he's only posting 1:22.7, so he's actually got a bit quicker. But Stalker running 1:23s, Goodwin also running 1:22s, and Dalton back into the 1:23s now, so he has to have used up all his tyres. So,
yeah, work, by the way, he's out of the race. He's going to be classified in 14th position. He's had a moment off the racetrack, and that's with 1 minute 36 to go. He will probably fall down to about 18th place when all is said and done. Probably just about enough time for David Stowe to try and get past him. But this is that battle we've been keeping an eye out on the racetrack between Goodwin, Dalton and Taylor. And Goodwin really has been able to pull out a bit of an advantage. You see, there it is right about now. And Goodwin now has himself about a second advantage over Matthew Dalton, and with what will be about a lap to go in this event. And very quickly, ladies and gentlemen, we do have to sort this out. Where is Jamie Rushworth right now? He's working himself past the start-finish line, so we're going to get ourselves 1 more lap after this, Jake.
Unfortunately, we will. That looks like I owe you a pint and a bloody tenner. Oh, God.
Maybe
another pint I owe you. Brilliant race from him so far. He's absolute dominant out front. Now got a 20-second lead over Clark Williams and Luke Ridgway, so they seem to not be on par with him. I said at the start of this one that Jamie's going to be the one to watch, and he totally has been. He's been absolutely dominant. He took that early spin though as well, so he's done very well to recover. But then the guys who were out in front as well, Tom Stanley and Simon Field, who were out in front, you know, they took early spins as well after Jamie, so he did really have the luck of the unicorn.
So then, we're having a look at Daniel Lees at the rear of the field. Oh, Matthew Dalton, something's happened to him. There you see Dalton just spinning that car around. We've got very quickly just enough time to show you a replay. The clock has just expired on your screen, by the way, so this is going to have to be a very quick replay. But here's Matthew Dalton down into that first corner of the racetrack. Let's see exactly what happens to him. Once again, a little bit loose into the corner. Gets that car turned around. There he is, Matthew Dalton. Going to lose out on that battle, but let's go here to Jamie Rushworth, because he is going to come past the start finish line. He's going to come down into that final corner right about now, and that number 11 car of Jamie Rushworth is going to take, and I'd say, a storming victory, a dominant victory. This is absolutely dominant by him. Get this, by 21.5 seconds as he comes past start finish line. Jamie Rushworth claiming victory here, waiting now for Clark Williams coming down into that final corner. You see there is a bit of gap behind him to Luke Ridgway, but going to be able to hold it off for the last part of this race. Clark Williams will come home in the second place in this event. Luke Ridgway will come home in third when all is said and done. There is Ridgway rating now 2.1 seconds, and here is Stalker coming home in the third place overall. And then Richard Goodwin rounds out your top 5. There he is on the racetrack. Timing and scoring hasn't yet updated. It's actually Simon Field who's going to come home in 6th position. No, Matthew Dalton actually. I think Dalton might just have been able to nib him out of the line. Dalton does come home in the 6th position overall, so he was able to get that place back. Simon Field in 7th. David Tuckett in 8th. Dan Lee coming past the line in 9th now. And Richard Wild will round out your top 10. There he is as he comes past the start finish line. A horrible day for him. Down 10 positions from the pole, Jake.
Yeah, he has. He's dropped a lot of positions, and very unfortunate for him. He took an early spin after he was leading the race and got collected by Tom Stanley, so that's going to be something to improve on for him at Charlotte in the NASCAR. If he decides to take to the ovals and start turning left instead of left and right, that would be very interesting for him, and it'd be a great one to see as well.
So then, to run through your final race results, Jamie Rushworth taking victory, fast snap of the race, 1 minute 21.723. Clark Williams in 2nd, Luke Ridgway in 3rd, Stalker in 4th, Richard Goodwin in 5th, Chris Taylor, Simon Field, Matthew Dalton, David Baker, Dan Lee rounds out your top 10. The rest of the results coming up on your screen momentarily. Jake, a lot of people struggling here with Donington, and being a brand new track, you can almost just about imagine it.
Yeah, a lot of people really are struggling around here, Will, and I think they need to sort it out. They need to have a little bit more practice, I think, maybe. But drivers obviously only turning up 5 minutes before the race, doing a little bit of practice, a little bit of quali. It's not going to be good enough for them. So that's why they're struggling, and it was an open setup race as well. So drivers have obviously been spending a little time on their setups. And I also have found out who Stalker is. It's actually Ellis Stephenson.
Oh, so there we are. Dear Ellis Stephenson, please actually use your new real name for the next broadcast. You completely ruined my overlay, which I spent literally about 2.5 minutes preparing before this broadcast. Actually, it's a lot longer than that, but I'm going to be nice. 2.5 minutes. You see there is the second half of yours grids up. David Taylor, Rich Smith, Steve Barker. They round out your field. So, Donington Park, tough track, of course. Donington Park is a beautiful track. Still angry with Donington Park myself, of course, being a huge rock metal fan, as you know. Download Festival, one of the biggest festivals in the UK, was held in the infield in Donington Park. You used to go underneath the Dunlop Bridge on your way in, and then they decided that they were going to invest lots of money into an F1 race that never actually happened, Jake.
Well, I actually didn't understand the word you just said, Will.
That's okay, no one ever does. So on that note, I think we're going to wrap it up, because you've got to go and run somewhere. I've got to get ready for the next race. So congratulations to Jamie Rushworth. We'll get your top 10 up on your screen one more time. Jamie Rushworth winning the first of the races here today. We've got another race coming up here on RaceSpotTV. Just a couple of moments time, so stick around with us here on RaceSpotTV this evening. Congratulations to Jamie Rushworth, an absolutely dominant victory here at Donington Park. So we'll head over to Charlotte Motor Speedway and to trucks in just a couple of moments' time, and we'll talk to you, ladies and gentlemen, in just a little bit. Thanks for listening.
Simulated racing can be awesome, but it can also be kind of a free-for-all. Interestingly, auto racing faced the same problem in its earlier days. Whether it was on the back roads, the beaches, or the city streets, the racing was fun. But there was always a certain level of chaos and danger, until some folks came along and put some order to all of this. Stuff like official racetracks, regulations about weight and equipment, and enforcement of standards. That's what gave us high-speed excitement, fast-paced action, and photo finishes. That's when racing became racing. The guys over at iRacing.com have made the same transformation in the world of sim racing. Sure, they've got the most accurate tracks and realistic cars out there, but that's just the start. See, iRacing analyzes the performance and results of each driver in every race, so you can be sure you're always placed in races where the competition will be tight, and that those reckless drivers who ruin it for us all are kept in the pits. Not to mention that with over 45,000 active members already in their vast community, you can find races day and night, so you can always get in on the action. You can even join a league of your favorite series. And since updates are always automatic, you don't have to worry about software and can focus on the track. Zip up your fire suit and check out iRacing.com.